This is Alex Golub-Sass, and you're listening to Mike Delivers with Mike Biseglia. I met Mike about 10 years ago. He was living with his cousin in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I started dating his cousin and then married her. So I've known Mike for a while, and he's a great guy, with the glaring exception of being a Brooklyn Nets fan.
Welcome inside Mike Delivers from his wife's 2017 Toyota RAV4. Here's your host, Mike Biseglia.
That's right, this is Mike Delivers, episode number 121. And I'm your host, Mike Biseglia. And I'm coming to you from my wife's kitchen in Bloomfield, New Jersey. Not in the 2017 Toyota RAV4. And boy, do we have a story for you kids that you'll get to hear on episode 123. I wanted to be outside the Five Guys in Wayne, New Jersey, but instead I'm inside the kitchen, and it is what it is, my friends. I've done 1,667 deliveries, and I have not and will not steal food from anybody. That is my promise to you, the American people. Or if you listen outside of the US of A, I will not steal food. That's the bottom line, all right? I have a 99% satisfaction rating. What that means is I'm really good at doing Uber Eats. I have a 99% satisfaction rating. If anybody in life had a 99% satisfaction rating, I mean, everybody would be happy with that, right? I mean, should I be wanting more? Is 99 not good enough? I always get a little nervous, though, like after I do a bad drop-off. Like, what if my rating goes down? What if the food was upside down? How about that last story I told from a couple episodes ago when the food popped out of the IHOP bag? What if this person knew this? What if this person listened to the Mike Delivers podcast? They would know my 99% satisfaction rating may be a little gimmicky. Point is, I'm trying my best, and I appreciate everybody that downloads this podcast. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, all major platforms. That where you can get this bad boy. And if you listen on Apple, don't forget, give a 5-star rating. Leave a comment. Comments are always appreciated on the Mike Delivers podcast. Interview coming up in this episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. Gus Frerotte, former NFL quarterback. He's got a podcast now himself out. It's called Huddle Up With Gus. He lives in the Pittsburgh area. He grew up in that Pittsburgh area. And I, having my mom from Pittsburgh and my wife now who's from Pittsburgh, I have a lot of Pittsburgh connections. So I thought it'd be a lot of fun to talk Pittsburgh food, talk about what it was like on the road for Gus Frerotte in the NFL when he traveled, and then, of course, talking about Uber Eats and delivery drivers. And, well, he's not a delivery driver, but food being delivered to him, and talking about all of the cool experiences that he has with Uber Eats, because, you know, that's what this podcast is about, being an Uber Eats driver. Transitioning, since I've left CBS Sports Radio, I'm doing more and more on the podcast side of things, and I'm really proud of this. I've mentioned this to you guys here and there on the podcast, but the prosclub.com is expanding, which is really cool. So Anthony Pierno and I, he and I co-created this website called The Pros Club, where we help create podcasts for other people. I built a little network. It's got some really great content on there, like Bad Weather Fans. I highly recommend everybody go out and download and listen to. But something new that the Pros Club is now going with, which is awesome, is we will be creating podcasts for other people. So if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, I want to do a podcast about something that really interests me, or even better, maybe you're a small business. Maybe you work in a business where you run a bakery and you want to do a podcast about baking. You can do that. It's up to you. Any topic you'd like. Contact me, DM me, email me, MikeDeliversPod@gmail.com, or DM me MikeDeliversPod on Twitter and Instagram. Get you hooked up with that. Something I'm very excited about. And I love podcasts. So I like helping people with podcasts. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you're interested, let me know. I can hook you up. I mentioned in the beginning of this, I'm recording this not in my wife's 2017 Toyota RAV4. I will have the story about that on episode 123. Just needed a little time to digest it, and then I will talk about it. Don't forget the Mike Delivers Patreon page is available for everybody. Just type in Mike Delivers on Patreon. There you get 40 bonus episodes that have already been recorded in the past year. My wife and I have food reviews. We have blind food taste tests where I put pantyhose around my eyes. And also one of my favorite at the each and end of every month, we do a blind food taste test challenge. This one coming up, and I'm going to actually make this available for the public on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So you get a little feel for what we do is we had 2 different grilled chicken sandwiches. I try them each. I'm blindfolded with my wife's pantyhose. This time it was the swaddle blanket that we used for the kid, Ryan. which I lost spit up on it, so it's kind of gross, but that's what, adds to everything. And I had to guess if I like the one that's from Wendy's or the local spot, which grilled chicken sandwich was better. You can find that coming out on my social media this week later on, but typically would be on Patreon just to give people a feel for what they get. Okay, interview time now. I'll be talking with Gus Frerotte, former NFL quarterback. He's got his podcast, Huddle Up With Gus, which you can find on all the major platforms. If you're a big NFL fan, I highly recommend checking out his podcast. He's got great interviews with guys like Dick Vermeil, Kurt Warner, Wes Welker, just to name a few. Chris Long, so he's done some incredible interviews. I highly recommend checking out Huddle Up with Gus Frerotte. But we'll get to our conversation, talk a little Pittsburgh, talk a little bit about the food delivery game, talk about what it's like on the road in the NFL, and his love of cooking, which has been coming up. We'll talk about that. But my first question to Gus Frerotte is about the Pittsburgh food scene and how it is expanding and getting better and better every day.
Oh, definitely. There's a lot of chefs coming to Pittsburgh one way or another. I think they have a good industry here. Obviously, through COVID, it's been pretty tough for a lot of them. I've had some friends lose their jobs that were chefs, and they're coming back and they're trying to find a new foothold. It's been tough when you have to only do 50% occupancy or 25% occupancy. It's been hard for them. Actually, my sons and I worked at my buddy's restaurant through COVID. And we helped him because he had to let go of 30 staff members. So it was him, his other chef, Rodney, and then it was Gunnar, Gabe, and I. I did the kind of put all the food together, bagged it up. My boys did all the delivery and handed it out the door. So we kind of got to know the food industry a little bit. And the problem with that was that chef wasn't only cooking for them. He always had food laying around. So I was constantly eating fries and all his amazing food he always made. So that wasn't good.
That's awesome. Well, let me ask you about the fries thing. So Permanis, I know that's the gimmick. They put the fries on the sandwich. Is Permanis as good as advertised, or is it living off its fame?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think when you go to the original Permanis, either the one down in the Strip or the one in Oakland, I think those two are, you're going to slide across the floor in there. And those two places where you can go get a good sandwich. But, I think they're living a little bit off their fame with other restaurants. But they do have great bars. They have good, kind of go sit at the bar, watch some games, do those types of things. But really, I think where they come in, for what they were made for back in the day, for people getting out of the factory, having a full meal and one sandwich and all those things. I think it takes place now for people that are out till, midnight. Right. And instead of getting Uber Eats, they just go to Permanis and get a sandwich when they're, as most people do after they've been drinking for a few hours.
Right. Exactly. That I've had it one time, Permanis, but it's been so many years, I don't remember. So I don't want to give I don't really have a take on it. I mean, I remember enjoying it. I remember loving it, but I always get so fascinated by that because it's Permanis is like when you think Pittsburgh, you think Permanis, but there's so many other awesome restaurants. So I'm always just kind of curious about that. But how about on the pizza front of things? I personally, growing up, was a Minio's guy. So my mom's from Squirrel Hill. So when we would go to visit in Pittsburgh and go to Squirrel Hill, there would always be a Minio's trip. But I know there's a couple different places, some that are similar to Minio's. What would be your go-to spot for pizza in Pittsburgh? And what do you think number one would be?
Well, my wife and I grew up outside of Pittsburgh in a little town called Katanning. And there used to be this pizza place. Well, there still is. It's called Serrans Pizza. And Serrana's made a deep dish, kind of thick, square cut pan, where you put the whole sheet in, those kind of things. But they recently sold it about a year ago, and the new owners changed a few things. It's not the same anymore. I mean, we used to drive 45 minutes to go get this pizza. We live in Oakmont, and for us, if we want to go to Aiello's or Minio's or some of the top pizza places, that you say of in Pittsburgh, they don't deliver here. So through COVID, we're not driving there. So we have a Veltry's here. We have, your Pizza Hut and Domino's. But none of I think, compared to what we used to get at Serrana's. But Minio's, Aiello's, and I'm sure there's other good pizza spots. You're always trying to find a really good one. I know there's a one down in Oh, what's that little town? That's not the Strip, but Lawrenceville. They opened up. I can't remember the name of it, but they don't really deliver. You got to go in there and get it, and it's pretty good where you can get different types of pizza. So, like I said before, I'm all for trying new stuff all the time, and we go different places to try and find that pizza that we grew up with and love, and we still haven't found it yet. But there's some good replacements.
I like the energy and the vibe of you and your wife trying to go find different places. Like my life is devoted to finding new restaurants, finding new pizza places, finding new whatever. So I love that you're like going to explore that. I mean, I'll go on Instagram and it'll be like, ooh, a new Detroit style pizza place is down the street, and my life then becomes centered around when are we getting to that meal and what will happen with it.
Well, yeah, no, we've done that. We live in Oakmont, and Oakmont is kind of been run by a few. There's an old school place here called Hostot's that a lot of people journey to. Obviously, we have the Oakmont Bakery, which is booming. A lot of people know of here in Oakmont, and we have a couple other smaller places, and we try to go to them as much as we can. But sometimes they don't live up to what our standards are, so we end up going to other places to get food. But we do a lot of cooking. My wife and I. She's been working full time through COVID as a therapist and a nurse. And so I've been doing a lot of the cooking, and we just get recipes. I follow them and do my own little thing with them sometimes, but do a lot of cooking from home. But, sometimes you just want to not do that, and you order takeout a lot. And the sad thing is that, when you get like a Grubhub or Uber Eats, they only deliver a certain, like, couple miles away. Mm. And that's the crazy thing to me is that, they want to make money, but there's some great restaurants in Lawrenceville and the Strip District, and we just can't order from there because they won't deliver whole way out to Oakmont. And it's only about, 6 miles.
Interesting. Yeah. Here in New Jersey, I mean, I've gone as far as like 20-minute, 15-mile drive. So I wonder that's like why Uber Eats and the Grubhubs and the DoorDashes haven't worked their way to get more restaurants in the Pittsburgh area. Because my mother-in-law is from Pittsburgh, and she was telling me there's like all of these different alternatives to Uber Eats and Grubhub, like of these names I've never heard of. So that might help you. I wish I had that information for you now. It's not going to be super helpful. But like different,
There's a group of guys out of Carnegie Mellon that started their own company that wanted to compete with Uber Eats and Grubhub and all those. But there are ones around here, and they're few and far between. It's just I think Pittsburgh has so many bridges,
right,
and rivers that you got to cross, and so that's kind of how they section themselves off. This is all the further we'll go. But we live up kind of the Allegheny Valley, up Route 28, up the Allegheny River, and the restaurants, the good restaurants, the further you get from Pittsburgh, the less they become. And, I keep begging people to come up the Allegheny Valley and open up a good restaurant, and it just hasn't happened yet.
So then what's Chef Gus cooking on a typical night? What kind of recipes are you following? What have you been making at home?
Lately we've been doing the fall stuff. We've been trying to make, I made a kale and sausage soup. We made a salad, an arugula salad with, and I made these special squash where you bake them in the oven and you can eat the rinds and everything in the salad. Wow. So we've been kind of doing those types of things. And it's just not like every now and then I'll just do a steak and some, green beans and do some roasted potatoes. But we try to really do some good recipes where you put some flavor in, being around a chef and seeing how they work and cook and just putting a little salt and pepper on it to me now is not like what it needs to be.
That's funny. And that's probably a cool experience to see that because, and I understand this, like everybody has their expertise in life and everybody has things they're good at and things are like, I can't even imagine that. To me, running a kitchen and seeing how a chef operates and how it all comes together is the most wild thing in the world. I'm like, how is the food on time at people's dinner tables? They coordinate 5 different, like if there's a family of 5 and one person wants a steak, the other person wants seafood, somebody else wants a salad, like how they get that all time together. That must have been kind of cool to see behind the scenes. Cause I'm just like, this seems, impossible to pull off.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, and you got to have some really good people around you. That's why the industry is so difficult, because they don't always find the right people. And people are coming and going, and their turnover rate is really high. But the prep work is so important. The restaurant may not open till 2 p.m, but actually those people are there at 7 a.m, cutting everything up, getting everything ready. The sous vide machine is rolling. It's keeping everything hot so that when you cook a steak, you're not cooking it raw. It's already kind of cooked. You're putting a good sear on it. It's just amazing to watch them work and how fast they can get food prepped. And the other thing that's amazing to me is that the food is so hot when it's coming out, and how they can touch it is like, I'm touching a hot fry and I'm like, man, this is burning my fingers, and they're just laughing at me. Yeah. Right. Because they don't even notice that stuff anymore. They're pulling stuff out of a fryer, putting it on a sandwich and just picking up with their bare hands. And it's like, how do you guys do that? They're pulling stuff out of the oven that's 400 degrees. And it's just like, yeah, that sometimes it's hot, but it's like, I think they're just so numb to it. But man, the way they go and they get things ready, and the good chefs just know where everything is. You got to have everything prepped and ready. You don't want to be opening a package that has a certain spice or seasoning in it. It all has to be out and ready, because that's part of your menu. And I think the good chefs, the ones that when you go in there every 2 or 3 weeks, they're changing their menu. That's really tough, right? Because all of a sudden you're changing a menu, but there's so many things that go into that. And some of the chefs that you see where the menu never changes, they kind of have it down. And I just learned so much about the restaurant industry, and I realized there's restaurants when I go in, I'm walking right back out, because learning from the chef that says, look, if the outside is dirty, imagine what the kitchen looks like. So there's things that he taught me that I'm like, yeah, you're so right. Like, you ever been into a restaurant where the chairs are ripped and there's dirt in the floor and it doesn't look clean, and you're like, okay, what's the kitchen look like then if they're not even cleaning the front?
Right. That's a great point. No, that's something I'll look at moving forward. Those kind of details. It's funny you say that too. Like, as doing Uber Eats for the last year plus, I consider myself now like I could be almost like I could go into a restaurant and help them on their takeout procedures. Like, being somebody that's done so many of these, I've gone into so many different restaurants. I now know which restaurants have their act together, which ones don't, how I could help them. I guess what I'm trying to say is I could be like a consultant for restaurants on how to make sure that your delivery orders are sent out on time and timely, and protocol to do that, which I don't know is like a scary thing from doing Uber Eats so long. To your point about being back in this kitchen, it's like I see how things can be done right and not right from all this experience.
Yeah, it's funny. We went through that. My sons went through that. We were using Grubhub, and at the restaurant, they didn't use any. They used the service. They've never done that before, because it was a pretty high end restaurant. And through COVID, they were just trying to get their product out right. They were trying to make whatever they could, and Grubhub's. We were really anal about getting things out, getting things ready. And there were so many times that Grubhub screwed the order up for us, which was crazy, which I didn't think would happen. Or they put the wrong address came in, or the guy delivered it to the wrong house. And then the people were calling my sons and complaining. And the chef was like, look, you guys are out there running it. You take care of it. And which was kind of cool for them to learn how to handle situations like that. When we were going through those times and learning, all that stuff. The number one thing about a restaurant is customer satisfaction and taking care of your customers. Because if you don't do that, like if somebody complained, chef would just make them a whole new meal and say, here, take it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, where if somebody came in the restaurant and didn't like what they ordered, he would come out personally and he would talk to them and say, okay, what was wrong? What do you want? Instead of unless they were crazy busy and they were packed. But he's always like, you know what, if your people coming in aren't pleased, you're going to get terrible reviews. You're going to get people talking about you negative way. And it's just not the way anything should be done. And so he always had a high expectation of all that. So Scott Walton's his name, and Scott is opening up a new restaurant in Pittsburgh called Scarpino. It's downtown. So I'm excited for that. But his expectations are high, not only of his staff, but of his food. And then his customer service was always the number one thing for him.
Yeah, that's really smart. That's a great approach. It's worth putting your pride to the side for 5 minutes. And if you know that you want to get repeat business and you want to do things right. So shout out to Scott. That's a smart move and the right way to do things. So when you're ordering food, and this is a hot button topic here on the podcast, I ask this to all the guests that come on. I have a feeling on it, but I'm curious to get yours. When you get a meal delivered to you, do you reheat the food or do you eat it as it is and just take it out of the containers and go to town?
I guess it depends what it is, right? I think usually we just take it out of the container, depending how far it came from. But like, to me, certain things you need to eat right away, like sushi. You can't let sushi sit around, right? If you order sushi, it's just, you got to get it out and eat it as fast as you can, because I don't think we've ever eaten sushi, a couple hours later or the next day. It's just, if you don't eat it at that point, it's kind of going in the trash. But certain things you get, like if you got soup and it was cold, and you can reheat that stuff. But because these places don't deliver from far away, our food has rarely been cold. And most people have been able to get packaging that keeps it pretty warm. So we are a family of pull it out of the package, let's go.
Yeah, that's a big point of contentious in my relationship with my wife. Probably one of our bigger issues, which is a good thing, I guess. She's like, we got the food, it's here, just eat it. And I'm like, no, we've got to set the oven the right temperature. We've got to make sure the food is piping hot like we came out of the restaurant. But, the issue with that, and I know this and I accept it, is the food then is going to, like, you could dry it out. It might not be the same, whatever the dish might be. Like, it's not going to be the same quality. If you zap it for 2 minutes, you're losing the integrity of what was done by it. But I have this real problem, Gus, where I just have to have it hot. It's an issue for me.
Well, do you do that with pizza too?
Oh, yeah, I'll do it with pizza. Pizza's number one. It's got to be hot. It's got to be piping boiling hot.
Can you eat pizza cold?
I think it's gross.
Next day?
I think pizza for breakfast to me is this, like, I'm not into it. I don't get it. I'll eat pizza for breakfast, but it's got to be hot. I don't like the cold cheese thing. Yeah, I know. People give me a lot of crap for that.
What do you nuke it, or do you have to put it in the oven?
It depends on where the pizza's from and my hunger level. If it's that night and we just got it from a restaurant, it'll go in the oven. The next day, because now I'm like, we're kind of at day 2, I'm okay with the nuking, if that makes sense.
So then you have to, like, your pizza has to be to have the melted cheese, like it can be like gooey and runny and melted.
Yeah.
So even if the pizza comes and it's hot, like, you're still going to put it in the oven?
Most likely, yeah. Probably 9 out of 10 times. It's bad. I have a problem. So, it's a real problem.
So everything you get, so you order from it's like you're baking it yourself. You're going to wait. You're going to finally get your food after waiting 45 minutes to an hour. And then you're gonna heat it up for another 20 minutes in the oven before you eat. I'm with your wife on that one, because I'm like, if I waited that long to get the food and I'm starving already, I got to eat it.
You're not alone in that. Most people that come on this podcast agree with you, and I'm kind of in the minority on this. But it's just something I've always had to do that way. It's not good. It's a habit I want to scrap.
You got to order the food that is going to be hot. Like, that's how you're going to break your habit. All right,
I know.
We're going to get this food. It's going to be hot. I'm going to eat it.
Right. Exactly. Well, to your point about sushi, like, you don't have to reheat it. It's going to be good to go. But I'll, like, reheat the miso soup and stuff. Even like the small little container. Here's another minute. Make sure it's piping hot. Got to be ready. What's the etiquette then on the tipping for the Uber Eats drivers? How is that based off?
Since we were in the industry, I tip them, 20% or more every time. It's just something that, because we saw it, and I saw my sons work their butts off in a restaurant, and I didn't really care about getting paid. I helped my buddy, but my sons, they were working their tails off, and people wouldn't tip them. You know what I mean? If they did delivery for the restaurant, like, just because it was close to the restaurant and we wanted to get their food hot, and people would just take it and not tip them. And I don't think that's right at all. I think that everybody, chefs didn't pay them a lot. We know what industry wages are. And so my wife and I just tip everybody. Like, we're like, okay, y'all deserve it. Y'all work hard, whether it's the driver or not. And the crazy thing is that I don't know what percentage, like with Uber Eats, that you get the tip and what Uber Eats takes of it. And that to me is kind of robbery. They should get like 5% or less because you created an app that everybody can use, but you got people all over the country using an app, and who knows how much money, just like Grubhub. Right. You know, people are using these restaurants are using Grubhub, and, you know, shoot, they're getting an order for $45 and they're only making 30 on it, or 25, you know, which is insane to me. And you're just an app, right? So I think the tipping, like, somehow everything should be separate, right? Here's what the actual meal costs, right?
Right.
And then the restaurant gets that. Here's the tipping for the delivery, right? That's separate. And then here's what the app or whatever app you're using, that's the percent they get. Like, it should be broken down. And like, I think a lot of it is the consumer doesn't understand all that, right? That the restaurants aren't getting their fair share.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And that's been, especially during this pandemic. And I think a lot of restaurants have changed and added different platforms and used different platforms because they're, you know, let's say they're putting the food out and the app's taking so much money. And then the person that's paying for the said food is like, well, I'm getting all these charges. This sucks. I'm not going to tip the person. And then it's, you know, the Uber Eats that's taking all this money and taking it away. That's why, like, I've been trying forever, and it's just been impossible. I want to get somebody on from Uber Eats. I'm like dying to talk to somebody about this stuff because, you know, as being a driver and has done over 1,600 deliveries and have gone to different restaurants, like, I feel like I would be ready to rock, to ask like the questions to get out of them, to learn. But I don't think anybody wants to do it because there's like nothing that can be gained from having somebody, you know, come on and talk about how they're taking everybody's money.
Yeah, I mean, you should have the chef on who went through all this stuff. He'd be a great guest for you. But, you know, he ran restaurants in Chicago for a long time. He ran actually Heinz Field with Aramark for quite a few years, and then he opened up his own place. So he's been through the gamut. And to see him struggle because, you know, you got to get food delivered and you got to put it out there, and to see how it's you know, with credit nowadays and everything's plastic and there's no cash, you don't really know where all your money is going. You know that you paid $45 for a couple burgers, fries, and all, you know, whatever else you got, but you don't really see or even care how it's divvied up. Mm-hmm. And then on the back end, the people that are making the food are the ones that are struggling.
Yeah, there was actually, and I interviewed somebody, this was kind of cool. There's a company called Lunchbox Co., and they're new to the game. And they basically created their own app, which bypasses Uber Eats, but uses Uber Eats drivers through their app. And what's cool about this place is it doesn't have any of the charges that the restaurants get. And so basically they get, they set up their own app internally through the website of their restaurant. And it sets up like an Uber Eats, but they don't have to deal with all of the, you know, bells and whistles and things that get charged, so that the restaurant's happier, the driver's happier, and the consumer's happier. And this company just sets up these apps, sets up these websites for restaurants, and kind of helps to get rid of that, which was kind of cool, called Lunchbox, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, Lunchbox would be great, you know, because setting that up would be the way to go, because it's just, you know, I feel bad for the guys and the drivers and people. Yeah. It's a good way. I mean, if you can hustle, you can make some money doing it with Uber Eats. But, you know, it's just, I don't know. I just feel that these groups have taken advantage of the market, right? And there's a market out there that we need to get we needed to get our food delivered to us. People needed to eat. And even with like the grocery thing, you know what I mean? Like, right. I do the in-store shopping, right, from Whole Foods, and they deliver it, because my Whole Foods isn't close to my house. So I'm like, okay, so it's free delivery because I order so much. Right. We do it like once every week and a half or so. But then you get your products and you're like, so for example, I ordered 3 zucchini, and literally the zucchini were about 3 inches long. Right. They were like these mini zucchini. It's like, okay, that's not what I ordered at all. But they're doing a replacement for you. And
right.
It's like half the stuff I would never pick out, but it's like, okay, I can't really complain because I didn't go there to get it. So there's part of laziness that we have that just people took advantage of. And there's part of people being safe that these companies also took advantage of.
See, I'll never. I've thought about doing the grocery thing, but I won't do it because I'm so bad at finding items in a grocery store. I'm like, I'm going to spend a day in there. Like, we need you to find the whole grain microwave rice. I'll be like, I'm going to be here for an hour and a half trying to find this rice. I can't do it. I can't even find things in the fridge. How the hell am I going to find a whole shopping list? So I've actually said I'm staying away from that just because I think of the time consumption that it would take for me to find places. How about, Gus, going back to your playing career? Was there a city in particular that we were on the road traveling to you got excited about based on the meal that you're like, we're going here. I know there's going to be a good dinner coming.
Well, certain cities we would go to and you'd get, because the NFL is different than every other sport. You go, if you're playing a Sunday game, you're leaving Saturday afternoon and you get there around 4 or 5 o'clock. The coach says, all right, go to your hotel room, throw your crap in your room. And then you go out and, you either can eat dinner with the team. And sometimes the coach demanded that everybody stay and eat dinner with the team if it was late or whatever, or you're going to get 3 hours because there's a team meeting at 8 o'clock. Right. So you got to be back for that team meeting. And so sometimes when you went places, you wanted to go out, right? New Orleans, Chicago, Seattle, those are places that come to mind where you wanted to go out. Some places you stayed were so remote, there was no place to eat anyway. So you just go in your room and veg out. You get there. And you know what? They feed you so much on a plane and everything that sometimes you're not even hungry when you get there. And then at 8 o'clock after your team meeting, they have a whole nother meal for you, basically. So you can eat ice cream, you can eat, fruit if you want it. They had all kind of stuff so in the NFL, there's always food for you.
Right.
But sometimes when you go to certain cities, especially if you were from there, if you played there before, there was a restaurant that you would call up and you'd want to go to. Now, like baseball and all those other sports, because they visit a town for so long, like we're in and out. Like we have 3 hours to go somewhere. Baseball, they're there for 3, 4 to 5 days. Hockey's the same way, right? They're playing, and so you don't have as much time. But if like Chicago, we would want to go out. We hey, find us a good restaurant. What do you want? All right, we want Italian. All right, there's a good place here. And your PR people would help you get seats or whatever. Maybe somebody. But some of those towns were always good to go out.
Those flights fascinate me because like I like flying. I enjoy it, like a long flight. For me, I have a hard, like personally, I have a really hard time relaxing. So sometimes like getting on a flight, I'm like, all right, I've had 2 beers and now I'm like chilling for a few hours. Let's watch a movie. So I kind of like flying. So I'm fascinated by then like the meals for athletes and, in the professional leagues. Like what were some of these meals like on these chartered flights going, let's say from East Coast all the way West Coast when you're on there for 4 or 5 hours?
Usually, steak or chicken. That's usually the way you would go about it. It's a normal prepared, if we're chartering United, that, and that's what the team chartered, that's what you would get. Like, some teams had their own plane, like the Dolphins had their own plane. So you would get a different meal, but usually, so like when you get on the plane, some teams you go to your seat and there's already a freaking foot long in your seat. Everybody would get one, like whether you wanted it or not. Right. And then the flight attendant would be coming down the aisle and she's holding this big basket and there's candy, any kind of candy bar you wanted in there. And the other side is any fruit you wanted. So you have your choice. You know what I mean? Like linemen could consume on the flight to a game. Linemen can consume like 3,000 calories if they want. It's amazing the food that is always in front of you. Now, times have changed a lot. Back in the day, they used to come down with a basket like that, and you can get any kind of painkillers you wanted as well. So times have changed, and things are healthier now. You can eat healthy. I'm not saying they're making you shakes on a plane, but most guys are kind of staying away from heavy carbs and doing those types of things, because after the game, after you played, I'll give you an example. Like you're just starving, right? So if you play a 1 o'clock game, you ate breakfast at like 7, you don't really get any food. If you're done at 4:30, whatever, you're getting on a plane at 6. By the time you get on the plane, that's when you first eat. But my favorite place to go is when we would play in California, wherever we played. Most time it was when we go play the Raiders, when they were out in Oakland. You would come off after the game, before you got on the bus to go to the airport, there was just In-N-Out burgers, like hundreds of them in a box. So you would just grab one, and you're starving. It's like the best burger you've ever eaten in your life. You know what I mean? They're just, I don't know how they kept them hot. Maybe they had you there with an oven keeping them hot for after the game, but it was the greatest thing ever. And then sometimes after the game, when I first started playing, you could have beer on the bus and the plane. And then that all went away after some people ruined it for everyone. But then some guys would still sneak some beers on, and you would have an In-N-Out burger with a beer on the bus right after the game. And there was nothing better.
Oh yeah. I can imagine that's the best feeling in the world after playing a game. Let's say you won and you're starving, and I'm sure the stress and the prep that goes into each week, that moment of decompression with a drink and an In-N-Out burger must have been tremendous.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's the best. You know what I mean? And sometimes you get on a plane, the food's terrible, and you're like, I'm not eating any of this. And you're starving all the way till you get home. And then you're digging through your fridge at, 8:30 at night. So there's plenty of food to eat in the NFL. I definitely took advantage of a lot of it.
Well, I'll bring it back to Pittsburgh, and then we'll wrap things up. I have a couple questions I ask at the end of each episode real quick, but I do want to ask you this Turner's iced tea. My mother-in-law was here. She just left, and she calls it Yinzer Fuel. Tell me about Turner's iced tea. Is it as good as advertised, and do you like it?
I do like it. I drink the diet iced tea, because the regular iced tea, which is really good, I don't know how many calories are in that thing, but
oh yeah,
it is good ice. It is really good iced tea. I know that it was kind of funny. What's his name from Barstool was just here, and he did a whole thing on Pittsburgh, and he drank the Turner's iced tea. He never had it before, and he rated it, I think, a 9.2.
That's right.
And something like that. And it is good. My kids like it. If you're from Pittsburgh, when my kids went to Central Catholic, and everybody at Central Catholic always had a Turner's. And the great thing about Turner's, they have those little mini jugs. So those kids were always carrying those mini jugs around with them. So Turner's is big here in Pittsburgh. I like it. I get the diet, and I think it tastes pretty good.
All right, cool. Well, Gus, thank you for coming on the Mike Delivers podcast, talking some food. So here's some couple questions I just end with all of my guests. So I'm just going to give them to you. This is high heat stuff here. Just whatever the first thing that comes to your mind. I just ask for your honesty, okay?
All right.
Cake or pie?
Oh God. I'm gonna go with cake.
Is there any particular reason you shifted that way, or some cakes you love, or just kind of jumped in your brain?
Well, I do like cake and ice cream. A good apple pie that my wife makes with some vanilla ice cream is also good, but we are more of I would say we make way more cakes in this family than pies. So we do all kind for different seasons. So we are definitely a cake family.
Waffle or pancake?
Pancake.
Good. I've had
Even though my kids love waffles and I have to make them all the time, I'm a pancake guy. I like the 49er flapjacks at the original Pancake House. Those are my favorite.
Best thing you ate 7 days from right now backwards, so from the last week, from right now when we're talking. Best thing you ate?
Oh man, I'll tell you what, my wife made homemade lasagna last night. And as my kids would say, it was fire.
I like it. And then finally, the last question here on the Mike Delivers podcast. A year from now, let's just say hypothetically, I know this is not happening, but this is my podcast, so this is the question. If you're sending out wedding invitations and you're getting married, do you invite me to the wedding?
Do I invite you to the wedding? Well, yeah, I need somebody to heat all the food up.
Great answer, Gus. Make sure you check out Gus Ferrotte's podcast, Huddle Up with Gus, which you can find where all major pods are found. Gus, thank you so much for talking Pittsburgh, talking some Pittsburgh food, Uber Eats, and your stories, travels on the road. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Thank you, Gus, for joining the Mike Delivers podcast. Really enjoyed our conversation. I love talking Pittsburgh foods. That was one of my favorite answers that I've heard at the end of an episode or at the end of the interview in the episode when asked about the wedding. That was good. That was a good job by you. That was a good job. That was unique. That was different. I liked that one. I like throwing people off with that question. You were very witty, very quick. I was very impressed with that, Gus. Very nicely done. And thank you again for hopping on the Mike Delivers podcast. Episode 122 will come out on Thursday, and that will be the end of Healthy Food Month. Thank God. Wasn't a huge fan of this. And, the annoying thing about Healthy Food Month was I think I got fatter. So, even though we're doing all these healthy foods, it's not working. I'm still chunking up. Did not work. One question I do have for the audience, because I thought this was curious. Picked up an order of Five Guys in Wayne, New Jersey, and drove it about 25 minutes to somebody's house. Would you get an order of burger and fries in Wayne, New Jersey? Well, I shouldn't say that. Would you get an order of burger and fries? You could be living in Tallahassee and being like, that's a far drive. Would you get an order of burger and fries from Five Guys and have it delivered and take 25 minutes? Seems a little excessive, okay? A little bit too long. Like, at that point, your food's cold. It's just going to be one big pile of grease. Had a problem with it. Did the delivery. I'm not going to not do the delivery. It's my job. I just thought that was kind of strange. Just wanted to throw that out there. And you let me know, audience. DM me. Tweet me. Do all the social medias. Mike Delivers Pod. Let me know. MikeDeliversPod@gmail.com. That is my email. Let me know. Just curious. Thought that was a weird one. Episode 122, as I mentioned, end of Healthy Food Month comes to an end. We do it with the grilled chicken sandwich from Wendy's. It's as healthy as it can be, I guess, when you're going to Wendy's. Thank you to Gus Frerotte for hopping on the podcast, talking some Pittsburgh foods. Really enjoyed it. Thank you to The Beautiful Noise. They are the music that you hear right now. They are the soundtrack to the Mike Delivers podcast. And thank you to you guys for downloading the Mike Delivers podcast and making this bad boy continue to go strong. I love it. I appreciate you. Thank you guys very much. This has been episode 121. We'll see you next time for 122.